Greetings from the California Records and Information Management Program and the Local Government Records Program at the California State Archives, a division of the California Secretary of State's office. Welcome to our course, Records Management Basics. First, we will introduce you to some basic records management terms and concepts. Then we'll share an overview of your records management responsibilities as a government employee, including what resources are available to help you manage your records. At the end, we'll discuss some pro tips for managing your email records. Let's get started. The California Public Records Act defines a record as any writing containing information relating to the conduct of the public's business prepared, owned, used, or retained by any state or local agency, regardless of physical form or characteristics. In more real-world terms, a record is anything that documents the work you do on behalf of the government agency. Records exist in all formats, including paper, electronic, film, and magnetic media. The emails we write, the reports we submit, the documentation of transactions we make on behalf of our agencies are all records. They have a retention value and need to be maintained for a specific amount of time called the retention period. So, what is records management? Records management relates to the systems and organization we use to create, receive, store, use, access, and dispose of records in all formats. You might be wondering, why does records management matter? What's in it for me? Good question. Some of the benefits of records management are supporting public transparency and increasing the public's trust in their government. It also provides increased efficiency in finding records and tracking versions, and supports the preservation of agency history and legal compliance. The management of records is a responsibility for all government employees. The California Government Code, including the Public Records Act and the State Records Management Act, as well as the State Administrative Manual, all speak to our responsibilities as public servants to manage our record assets. Not every piece of paper, file, or email is a record that needs to be retained. Some documents are considered transitory or non-records. Copies, duplicates, or publications that are kept for purposes of personal reference or convenience may not be considered records if they do not document your work or require you to act. There is emphasis here on the word may. Copies may not be records with retention value. Consider this scenario. A copy of a document contains handwritten notes from your division chief or other high-ranking person. What if those notes are about a big decision they made or another important subject? If so, then that copy should be considered a record. Another example is a map. Maps are often seen as a widely distributed publication, like a map of the United States or a globe. Those wouldn't be considered records because they don't show your agency's business processes or reflect the functions of your agency. However, let's say you are a natural resources agency and the map in question has locations and information of various wells you're monitoring. That map would be a record with retention value and should be on your retention schedule. We'll talk more about retention later. As you just heard, not everything is a record. The function being performed and the context surrounding the item helps determine whether it qualifies as a record that needs preserving. As public servants, we are all responsible for being good stewards of our record assets. Specifically, that means you must follow your agency's records management and retention policies concerning records protection, access, file naming conventions, and organization. The State Records Management Act requires state entities to have an efficient records management program with a designated records management coordinator, also known as the RMC. The agency's RMC is a first point of contact for any records management questions. Your RMC may ask you to identify the records you create, receive, and manage. They can also give you instructions about how to store and manage your records. It's important to work with your agency records management staff to keep them informed about changes in your systems, processes, or organization that affect records. Local government employees also have responsibilities to protect and provide access to public records. Cities, counties, and special districts are subject to the Public Records Act, even though they are not subject to the State Records Management Act. So, what resources are available to help you fulfill your records management responsibilities? State agencies should first consult your agency's records management program. Your records management program is established specifically for the management of records and required in the State Records Management Act. Your RMC and their staff are a great resource for questions about your records, including storage, retention, and what to do with records once they've met their retention period. All employees should have access to their agency's retention schedule and records management policies to explain how long their records need to be kept and what to do with them. And finally, the CalRIM team at the California State Archives is also a resource for you. Our team of analysts are happy to provide records management support and assistance. Here's our contact information. Local government agencies should also have their own city, county, or special district records management and retention policies. The California Secretary of State's office is available to provide guidance and best practices concerning records management through the local government records program. Now let's talk about those retention schedules we keep mentioning. A retention schedule is an amazing tool for all employees because it's the key to knowing what records your agency has and how to manage them. It also explains how long you keep your records based on the function they perform within your office. Every employee of your agency should have access to your retention schedule so you can locate your records, know how long to keep them, and whether they can be destroyed or have enduring historical value and need to be transferred to the state archives for permanent preservation. Let's do a quick tour of what's typically contained in a retention schedule. This is an example of what a state agency retention schedule looks like. Records are organized and listed by record series or groups of records supporting a unique function. Each record series will have a title that gives you an idea of what records you're looking at. The description of those records will provide context and a brief listing of the records contained within the series and how they're used in your agency. The media type column will tell you what format the records are in. A capital P stands for paper, E for electronic, F for film, and M for magnetic. The retention columns will tell you how long the records must be kept and where they are kept during that time frame. Finally, the remarks will provide any additional information you may need while storing and using these records, including a description of when the retention period starts. For example, when the investigation is closed at the end of the year, after project completion, etc. Remember, if you can't find your retention schedule, reach out to your agency records management program for a copy. And if you don't know whom to contact in your agency, email us and we can help you. You'll see our contact information again at the end of this presentation. To help understand how to manage your records and interpret your retention schedule, think of records as having a lifespan. The retention schedule explains how to manage records throughout their life, from the time they're created or received, while they're used, and finally when they're stored to wait out their required retention period. The retention period is the amount of time records need to be kept to support their legal, fiscal, and administrative needs within your agency. Once the retention period has been met, the records can be dispositioned, which usually means one of two things. If any records are flagged with Notify Archives, meaning they have enduring historical value, they're given to the state archives. Records not flagged Notify Archives are destroyed once the retention period has been met. Everything we just said about records still applies to records in all formats, including electronic records. Emails can also be records if they document your work or require you to act. But how do you properly manage and organize your email records? This is something that many agencies and their staff don't think about. So we're going to go over some email management best practices next. Remember, emails are a type of electronic record. When determining how long to keep emails, consider their content and what function is being performed. Not all email records will have the same retention period because their content and function are not all the same. Avoid using work email for personal business or your personal email to conduct government business. However, if you do have any personal emails that don't pertain to government business, they should be deleted as transitory or non-records. Some examples of these transitory emails that are okay to delete are, for instance, an email arranging a lunch gathering or an auto-generated out-of-office reply you got in response to an email you sent. Emails should be organized by their content, not their format. In other words, don't keep all emails in a single folder just because they're all emails. They should be kept with other records that support the same action or agency function. Example of functions performed via email might include project management, financial transactions, staff supervision, or general office administration. Emails are subject to the individual department's records retention schedules and must be retained for the appropriate period of time based on the corresponding record series. Keep and manage email records in their original format. Remember that the metadata associated with each message and any attachments are all part of an email message. This means that a printout of an email is not the entire record and cannot replace the original. Emails that provide insight into your agency's functions and those that contain content with historical value need to be preserved. Just like any other records, emails may be flagged for transfer to the state archives at the end of their retention period if the record series they support was flagged on the retention schedule as having historical value. Your agency must have an email management policy in place to ensure emails that are truly records are not deleted alongside transitory emails. Your policy should outline a routine for ensuring record emails are properly identified and saved. Ideally, these folders should be named and organized the same way your retention schedule series are named and organized, so it's easy to identify and retain them. As you write emails for work, be mindful of how those records will be managed. Your sent items are also records if they document your work. Create email records that will be easy to identify and manage. Use meaningful and descriptive subject lines. They're helpful for both the recipient and the sender in identifying and filing messages according to their content and function and support efficient searching for discovery. Avoid generic or confusing subject lines like helpful info, important, or contract status. Instead, add useful details such as the contract number, the project or topic name, and the case or invoice number that help identify the record. It's also important to stay on topic in your email chain so that the entire conversation can be properly managed. If you need to discuss a different project or topic with the same person, start a new email conversation chain under a new descriptive subject line. Okay, that's it for this Records Management Basics course. One of the main things we want you to walk away with is that there are resources to help you and your agency with records management. Your primary resource should be your agency's retention schedules and records management policies. Remember, every state agency should have a records management coordinator you can contact for help. We've also listed the email address for both the state and local government records management teams on the screen. And finally, if you have government records with enduring historical value, contact the California State Archives State Records and Appraisal Program for a consultation. We've provided you with that email address as well. Records management is a critical endeavor in any organization, but especially in government agencies. Your efforts are meaningful and help document the important work you're doing for California and its citizens.